This build is Ultimate Pulverize. I highly recommend that anyone that's planning to use Pulverize for Abbattoir Vizier run this build. I tried all the different variations with Grizzly Rage, Quick Shift and Resonance, and combinations of aspects in different places. I also tested the Spear of Lycander, and I ended up settling on a build that doesn't use any of the Uber uniques. Now it's worth noting that I optimized this build around AoE, because the new bosses are 3 enemies instead of 1. Despite that, we can still practically one-shot Uber Lilith, and tier 100 Nightmare dungeons are no problem. Now I've got a lot of Paragon Boards I've got to update for tomorrow, so I'll be streaming that here in a bit, so if you want to come by and see that, my stream is twitch.tv/Screamheart. But let's get into the build. If you want to see any additional information, you can click on the link underneath this video. I've got a section for skill rotations, as well as an explanation of the build. But just so you have an idea of how it works, the main thing that drives this build is overpower. We have an innate 3% chance to overpower. We overpower every 300 spirit we spend. We get an overpower charge every 12 seconds that we're healthy. We get another charge every 16 seconds that we're in werebear form. And this doesn't have to be consecutively. We're getting an overpower every 20 seconds from our vampire powers. And we're getting another overpower charge every 20 kills. We're tapping into every source of overpower we can get. With well over 2,000 overpower damage, we hit like a truck. So the gameplay for this build is pretty simple. You can use Bloodhowl to activate your Vigilance passive for some damage reduction. Pulverize is your main source of damage, or should I say only source of damage. Your companion skills you're going to mostly leave alone. These are for passive bonuses. However, the most important one to use is Poison Creeper. Using Poison Creeper will activate our Heightened Malice node. That gives us a 45% damage increase, and this also gives us a 20% critical strike chance on the enemies that are poisoned. When you combine that with what we already have, that's an 80% critical strike chance. Our ultimate is a great source of CC. It's going to stun everything in the room, and we can also use it to increase our damage to enemies and bosses. If you ever want to get the ability to pull enemies into you, feel free to drop Retaliation and go for Eridas. You're going to lose some damage, but this could be very nice, especially in a team situation. For our Spirit Boons, we're going Wariness, Scythe Talons, Iron Feather, Pack Leader, and Obsidian Slam. If you really like seeing bigger numbers, you can always drop Scythe Talons and go for Avian Wrath. And if you really don't need the survivability, you can always drop Iron Feather and go for Avian Wrath as well. That's a choice I would make if I was doing something like Uber Lilith. For the equipment, we're going with Disobedience on the Helm. And once we have the Tears of Blood glyph, there's a good chance we're going to get enough armor from the spot that we're putting it that we won't have to run Disobedience anymore. If that happens, Godslayer will be the best choice here. And if you need the extra survivability, Shaco or the Legendary Helm work fine. For our chest armor, we're going with Insatiable Fury. For our gloves, we're using Ursine Horror. On the pants, we're running Tybalt's Will. On our boots, we're going Flicker Step. And if you don't have Flicker Step, you could always go some Legendary Boots and just run Ballistic or something. On our weapon, we're going with Shockwave Aspect. For our amulet, we're going with Banished Lord's Talisman. You can also go for a Legendary Necklace. And if you do that, you're going to move Shepherds up to the amulet. Then we could go Raw Might Aspect or Erida's Ring as a replacement. Now, if you use my written guide and you're not familiar with Mobalytics, you're going to click on this little slider in the top right, and this is going to show you the detailed stat breakdown view of the gear. If you don't want to go in there, you can always hover over an item and look at the bottom. Make sure you come in here and look for the items you need so you can get the correct itemization for the build. I even filled out the stats for items I intend to use a unique on, just in case you don't have them. The only thing to really note here is that you only need 1 damage to crowd-controlled enemies on your ring. We'll max out our Earth and Devastation bonus with just that. So for the other ring, you can either go Lucky Hit Chance or Physical Damage. For our gems, they're pretty set in stone. We're going Ruby on the weapon, Ruby on the armor, and Diamonds on the jewelry. Now we do have Poison Resistance in our Paragon board, so that means if you happen to have a resistance stat somewhere else on your gear, then you can just run 3 different gems, and potentially cap out your resistances a little bit easier. For our Vampire powers, we're going with Bloodhowl, Feed the Coven, Hemomancy, Sanguine Brace, and Metamorphosis. If you're a very active player, you could probably remove Feed the Coven and put in Prey on the Weak. This would allow us to make any enemies that we dash through vulnerable. For the skill tree, you just need to put 2 points into any basic skill so you can move to the next category. Then we're maxing out Wild Impulses, Pulverize, and putting 1 point in Primal Pulverize. Then we'll move down to the defensive tree, where we're going to take Bloodhowl and 1 point in Innate Bloodhowl, max out Ancestral Fortitude and Vigilance, move down to the companion tree where we'll drop 1 point in Wolves, 1 point in Poison Creeper as well as Brutal Poison Creeper, 1 point in Ravens as well as Brutal Ravens. We're going to max out Nature's Reach, and then we're going to move down. We're going to max out Provocation, max out Stone Guard and Crushing Earth, and put 1 point in Safeguard. Then we're going to max out Envenom and move down to the Ultimate tree, where we're going to put 1 point in Petrify and max that out to Supreme Petrify. Then we're going to max out Defiance, and then we're going to max out Heightened Senses. Finally, for our Keystone passive, we're going Ursine Strength. Our Paragon boards might look slightly weird. That's because I prepped beforehand and made sure that whatever we build now will work whenever the new glyph comes out. And I'll be updating the written guide tonight. So first up on the Paragon board, we're going to grab our rare nodes, and we're going to be putting Spirit on the first board. Moving up, we're going to grab the Survival Instincts board, and we're going to be putting Werebear here. We're grabbing every rare node as well as the legendary node, and then we're moving left and we're putting Inner Beast. Once again, we're basically grabbing every rare node, and we're going to be putting Dominate here. Moving down from here, we're going to grab the Earth and Devastation board, where we're going to put Outmatch and grab the legendary node. Moving back up above Inner Beast, we're going to be putting the Heightened Malice board, and getting just the legendary node and the one rare node. Then moving back to the right of Survival Instincts, we're grabbing the Ancestral Guidance board, we're going to get the one rare node, and we're going to grab the legendary node. This is what it'll look like when you're done. And when we get the Tears of Blood glyph, we're actually going to be filling in our Survival Instincts board, and we're not removing any boards, but we will be cutting down on some of the rare nodes that we're hitting. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I know it took longer than I intended, but I really wanted to get it as good as possible before AOZ. If we're able to hit our armor cap because of the Tears of Blood glyph, there's a good chance this build will go really far in AOZ. Because even though Disobedience is really nice, I don't like the fluctuation of it, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to drop that for some damage reduction. Either that or the Godslayer, so I can do a ton of damage. But anyways, guys, I'm looking forward to AOZ tomorrow, and I'll see you in my stream. Daddy Druid out.
I have a pen, I have an apple, apple pen.